St. Lucia, this is Open Mic, and we're now back to the third segment of our program. When we left off, we were talking about the situation with the bananas, but there was one area which we eliminated in the first segment of our program, or should I say the second segment, under the heading of tourism. You know, we were talking about incentives. Now, incentives come in different forms, because if one wants to build a new hotel, it's a lot of money to build a hotel because the cost of living is not cheap these days. The cost of building isn't cheap. And there are certain incentives that are provided. We saw it in Grenada, we saw it in Barbados, we saw it in Antigua. But St. Lucia had their own reservations about these incentives, and it wasn't done. But what we want to say, apart from helping the farmers is a plus, and don't let anybody fool you about that. I mean, they can say whatever they want about the farmers. They took their money and they built big homes and they bought cars and they had several lady friends. But the fact is, they were producing the bananas. I don't want to hear about that anymore. I want to see those farmers get back and do their work. But what I'm just learning from Dominic is the fact that I was not even aware of it, that there are 3 hotels up north, distressed hotels. One is about a 32-room hotel. The other one is about 150 rooms, and which is and another one almost 200 rooms. The first 2 hotels are really distressed, not operating. But what I'm saying, for instance, take for example the 32-room hotel. It's located in the north, and a hotel like that, I mean, if the government were to even give an individual some sort of a guarantee to run that hotel, I'm sure they could make a success of it. And a hotel like that would probably employ 40 people. It would bring in the foreign exchange, and then they have another 2 hotels up north that government needs to revisit because the situation there is pretty grim. And these are hotels on a beautiful beach which something has to be done, St. Lucia. But I think I will let Dominic highlight a bit more on that because you're more okra with that than me.
Well, not for political gain. I know that
yes.
Rochermel has failed when we attempt to bail out that development and that project. But we can learn from that. But I think the idea behind that was good, but it was a badly constructed deal.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that the intention was not right.
Right.
And I think that same intention and that same principle can be applied here as we seek to grow the economy, as we seek to create jobs, sustainable jobs. Our economy is mostly creating a number of short-term jobs, like the STEP program, for example. And,
nice,
and what
proud,
we need to
yeah.
do, nice and proud and so on. And so what we need to do now is to look for opportunities that exist where we can create long-term jobs. So look at what Obama did with the automobile industry in the
Correct,
US.
yeah.
Ford, Chrysler, and the other main American
Right.
manufacturing company, automobile company, they all got stimulus monies
Yes.
because the Americans recognize that austerity is not oftentimes the answer. Look at what's happening in Europe.
Yeah.
The Europe austerity program is strangling
yeah.
Europe and causing it to come out of the crisis a lot slower and with a lot more hardship on its people.
But you know, more importantly with the car industry in the States, and this is what I've said to many members of government over the years, the modus operandi has changed. Where Americans were building those big guzzlers, the people, the Fiat company that took over the company, they built a compact car, very fuel efficient, and look at it, the thing has turned around a profit. I mean, they don't remember the last time they made such a profit. So, you know, as you rightly said earlier, we are living in a different world. It's changing very, very quickly. And, you know, I share your view concerning the government's participation in unsustainable projects. For instance, you know, I keep saying that road they want to put up north for 250,000, whatever the case may be. I mean, the Prime Minister may be well-intentioned, but Mr. Prime Minister, this is the wrong decision. Because remember, it's not only putting the road, you are creating a heavier burden on the country for which we have to find funds from struggling economies to pay that loan. You yourself said, Mr. Prime Minister, that you're very proud of the tourism product. But the tourism product can only produce so much. You cannot overload it with all the debts that you're creating. Now, for instance, I've said repeatedly, I don't know how many times I'm going to say it again, one just has to drive around the harbor. You know, whereas you have cruise ships coming. When a cruise ship comes in, I think you pay, I'm not quite sure, I think $6 head tax, okay? But if the ship stays outside, you don't get the money. The more ships you can bring into the port, the more revenue you would get, plus the fact the taxi drivers will benefit from it, the people with the tour sites will benefit, the restaurants will benefit. So we really have to think very, very differently to what's going on now. And, you know, and the other areas, Mr. Prime Minister, please listen for a change. I know you've had your problems with the learning institutions, but it's like everything else. You can buy a good apple or you can buy a rotten apple. You know, unfortunately, the people who have come into St. Lucia for the learning institutions have not had the best training. And, you know, when you talk on a university with anywhere from 50 to 100 people, that doesn't make much sense because there's no critical mass. Why has St. George, after 35 years, still continued to function with 7,000 students? Dominica has 2,000 students. You have St. George's, so Dominica, you have Ross in Dominica, and both Antigua and St. Kitts that only started something like 7 years ago, each have 1,000 students already. So are we asleep at the wheel? What is going wrong? You have places like the University of Toronto, you have the universities in Taiwan, you have the FIU, Florida International University, right? And these are people who would be quite willing, with the right people, to get a proper learning institution going. These are sustainable projects.
And you're absolutely right. External campuses are the way to go. I have a friend who went to Trinidad to study for a prestigious university degree that is given by an organization called Anglia Ruskin from the United Kingdom.
Right.
And what they have in some of the larger Caribbean islands are very good external campuses, giving greater options and a greater mix to students who are pursuing degrees a lot cheaper and from organizations that enjoy a lot more profile in the
do you know,
world economy.
Dominic, right here on our shores, the people who bought over our shares in the supermarket, Neon Massey, the chairman, Mr. Arthur Lockjack, in his personal capacity, has a learning institution in Trinidad with 1,000 students. 1,000 students. So I'm trying to say, you know, we are asleep on the wheel. We have to do things differently. We must go out there because, you know, the proof of the pudding is the eating. The fact that we have had, our economy has contracted for 3 years, we are doing something wrong. And we have to change. What other areas can you advise the Prime Minister that he needs to?
Well, we need to give serious look to the incentive regime of the country. The Tourism Incentive Bill, which was passed recently, I think it was a couple of years ago, whereby I think you get up to 26 years of tax holiday, is no longer competitive in the Caribbean. And I believe that one of the reasons why you see countries like Antigua and Barbados now and Grenada are outpacing us in terms of attracting investment, certainly from foreign investment, is one, they moved a lot quicker in the case of Antigua and St. Kitts with the Citizen by Investment program, and they were innovative and quick and bold and got it done very quickly. And then as well, they also had, in the case of Antigua and Grenada, and certainly Barbados, which passed into law and redeveloped and revamped its Tourism Incentive Development Act so that companies that are coming in for investment get up to 25 years of tax holiday and then another 15 years of 50% of all applicable taxes. They have gone further now to even include food and beverage, which is a critical input. And I think that that's significant in that if you look at a hotel that's in Paris, they have a lot more inputs into the industry. That same bottle of wine which you would buy in Paris would actually confront a whole ton of taxes in the average Caribbean jurisdiction. So as the industry evolves, as the tourism industry becomes a lot more competitive, we have to look at all of these areas so that we can become competitive and give investors a chance secure the jobs of our people, and secure a prosperous and great country.
Yeah. There's another area which we have to focus on, because only today I was listening to the international news, and I don't know who in the government heard it, but it's something which needs to be explored forthwith, and that is that the superpowers have now said clearly that climate change is here, and they've developed a fund to help the emerging and developing countries to participate. Well, not to participate, to be entitled to this funding, because what it was said in the program is that the Caribbean and the small islands were the smallest contributors to climate change, but yet the hardest hit by the storms when they come. Because we, as you know, we are in the pathway for the storms, so we're the ones getting the blows. It's true that in the Middle East, in the Far East, sorry, Taiwan and China have been well clobbered. And just today alone I was watching that Hurricane Erika will be hitting Florida the weekend, and look at the amount of preparations that are being made, because they're expecting tons of water in that area. And which is what I said earlier, it's not the wind so much, but it's the water. St. Lucia, this is Open Mic. We've now come to the end of the third segment of our program. We'll be right back.